this is what I'm worried about. Will you treat this responsibility the same way I treat this responsibility? And if you can't, if there's any question, then no. Just absolutely not.
We were talking about it a little today already, balancing fatherhood and family life as a Christian man, right? And talking about, what we're standing with, what we're doing, where we're going. We got an 18-year-old boy about to graduate high school. And, is it are we going to be a diesel mechanic? Or are we going away to college, right? Those are the hard questions in life that we're dealing with right now. And it's, I'm all for the spirit of getting into business and working for yourself and doing those things. So, it's, as a dad, it's like, how do I sit there and support him the best way and direct him down a path that God's leading him? What do you feel led to do, right? And I guess that's part of our question today and what we're talking about, right?
Yeah, I would say probably one of the biggest challenges that I deal with is when dealing with boys.
Time out. Okay, so just for our viewers, hey, how many kids do you have?
I've got two that are just turned 16 and about to turn 14.
Okay, boy and a girl.
Boy is 16, girl's the younger one.
So 2 boys and a girl. 18-year-old boy, about to be a 16-year-old boy in June, and then 13-year-old daughter. Well, about to be 13, not quite 13 yet. So
sweet. And I have 6 children.
I got 5.
So we're the low man on the total.
From 24 to 16. And 3 boys, 3 girls.
Yeah. So I'll hop back into what I was going to say. So, the challenge that I feel that I'm dealing with, and I'll say this. So with my daughter, it's a lot easier to get her connected in church and wanting to go to church. She's that one that has the notepad, and during the sermon she's making all the notes, and she's actually paying attention and enjoying what she's doing. And then I look over, and which is 100% me, but my son's in la la land. He might look like he's paying attention, but there is who knows what going on, in his mind. And there's more of a struggle with my son to try and figure out where his connection is, with Jesus, what his relationship looks like with Jesus. My daughter, I don't worry about as much, she does little things that make me smile, and that let me know, all right, we're doing something right. And not that my son doesn't at all. When it comes to, school and athletics and his friends and, what he's out there and doing, I'm 100% proud of that. But it's hard for me because I struggle to get that connection with him and Jesus, to make it stick there that, hey, baseball's great. Right. Your grades, great, focus on them. Your friends, great, focus on them. But they take the back seat to where your relationship with Jesus needs to be. And those conversations are sometimes tough. When you try and have them, you get the one-word answer. Yeah. And it's no, let's have this conversation. And they go, I struggle with them. It's the conversations don't go anywhere. And with my daughter, I feel like I can sit there and we can have more of a conversation where she'll interact a little bit more. And I guess what I struggle with is I know exactly where he's coming from because that's how I was at that age, right? Yeah. It was not a priority. And everything socially was a priority for me at 16. What are my friends doing? When is baseball? What can I do after baseball? When can I go see my girlfriend? And that's the area that I struggle in. And I don't 100% know what the answer is. It's my first son. Yeah. I've never dealt with this before. So like I'm tackling it on a day-to-day basis. And we try to set the example at home, which sometimes we're not the best at it, and right. It's a constant work on us with Casey and I in trying to, lead by example so that they can maybe see how we're doing it. And maybe somewhere in the back of that, Neanderthal brain that we had as a 16-year-old boy, it'll sink in and stick. But man, I sometimes wonder, like, what else can I do? Am I doing it right?
Lot of things firing at 16.
There are. And it's
firing's a good.
Oh yeah, there's things just firing everywhere.
Loud explosions, yes.
Everything going in different directions, but I mean, we look at our boys, all of us, and I mean, we've talked about where we were at 16. They're in a completely different place. So the Lord has blessed us in that, and we talk about our relationship in Christ. Like we can only build a foundation, right? And they still have free will. And I think sometimes we get past trying.
To some degree.
Yeah, to some degree.
Kids, if you're listening, no, you don't.
Not much free will.
The turning 18, the last week or two after, he turned 18 a couple of weeks back, he's like, so now I get to do my own thing. I'm like, no, I still own everything. You have no free will in this place.
Yeah. Like, if you want to do your own thing, give me all of that stuff that I'm paying for.
You can move. And but don't take those. I bought all those. No, I'm not that way at all. I think, and you guys haven't got to experience this part yet.
Yeah.
When that first one gets married, especially, and I think I'm just going to be a basket case when one of my daughters does, but especially one of your sons. Like there's that moment of did I do
right?
Did I do enough? Did I do it right? Is he going to be not only a good man but a godly man? And like our little family chat, because there's so many of us, and I've got nephews and all of those things that are kind of all in our tight family chat. It's labeled as the wolf pack. This is my wolf pack. And it's like in that moment, I'm like, he's going to go start his own little pack, and how is he going to navigate the things from early marriage, the things from, establishing your own home, learning to, Dad's not here. I'm the head of the house. And not in that chauvinistic way, but leading by example and all of the things that we're supposed to do as men in the home.
Yeah.
And, there's a little bit of daunting, oh man, did I do enough? Did I do it right? Does he have it? And, he's doing really well. So I'm super proud. But I think the other part too is, especially when you start getting multiple, they're all different.
Right.
Like I have 6, and you figure at some point they would repeat, and it's like, okay, I already got one of you. I know how to raise you. No, they're all absolutely different. And having 3 boys and 3 girls, and all of them being different, it can get like where your brain gets kind of muddy. And I know at one point, like you're trying to some degree, like curve or shape the lessons, right? Okay, you're visual and you're more tactile, and you're like, if I speak even a little bit loud, you're going to crumble into small pieces. And it doesn't matter what my tone is, blah, blah, blah. It's like, you're like,
it's all negative.
Yeah. And so, I know for us, it became, instead of so much like crafting of an individual. It's like, this is a standard.
Right.
This is how we operate. This is our family standard. This is what it is. Whatever it takes for you to get that, understand that, like this is what we do. This is what we don't do.
Right.
Sunday mornings we're going to church.
Right.
Right.
You know what I mean? If whatever those kind of things are, and what's standard and expectation, then it's like, oh, okay. Well, I know that's not acceptable. And so however they get that information in the process is like, it makes it a little easier to navigate instead of crafting half a dozen.
Right.
And
you know what I mean?
And
Yeah.
I think to the degree that you're talking about, I think that those cornerstone things we have absolutely established in the house. I think what I'm talking about, or that I feel, because yes, you have the across the board, this is the family, we go to youth on Wednesdays, we go to Tuesday night prayer, we go to church on Sunday, we serve whenever we can, and as a family, we're working on our times to pray and how we do those things. It's the smaller things that do cater to my son's personality and my daughter's personality, whereas it's a little bit easier to cater to my daughter's personality, and the playing field is level when it comes to
Right.
those basics. But now, like, how do I make that connection? Like, there are times where I'm like, man, like, I missed an opportunity.
Right.
Like, that was the perfect opportunity, to sit down and talk about this, and I missed it. Not that you can't revisit it, but when it's time, it's that time,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
It's
yeah.
not the same if you try and go back and revisit it. And then, like, I struggle with, am I doing enough? Am I creating a environment that's conducive to them building their relationship with Jesus? Am I having those little conversations in the car on the way to baseball practice? Casey's really good because she takes them to school in the morning. So she's good with, asking them, all right, on the way to school, we're going to say a prayer on the way to school. I want you, and this started when they were little, and I want you to tell me, what you want to pray about, who you want to pray about, and just have those discussions in the car. She's always been real good about that. And now that they're getting older, those conversations aren't as easy, right? Because when they're young, it's a game,
Yeah.
not a game, but I mean, it's fun,
God
it's
bless
exciting.
The dog. God bless the
Right,
Yeah. They're praying for everything.
Everything. Like, oh, thank you for the people that, paved the road so that we can get to school. It's like it's sweet, sweet, sweet stuff. But now that they're getting older and those conversations are a little more real and they have a little bit more to do with what's the expectation as a Christian in school? What's the expectation as a Christian on your baseball or softball team? Are you leading by example? Are you taking those moments that are probably, or they're courageous moments where there is that fear of somebody laughing at you, there is that fear of somebody rejecting you, but having that conversation when the opportunity arises, right?
Right.
And as a parent, I constantly am checking myself and questioning myself. Am I doing it right?
Right.
As a parent and as a father. And it's just like, even if I was doing it perfect, if there is a perfect, I think I would still question, am I doing enough?
Well, that's where I check it sometimes, especially because we're all raising boys too, into men and young men.
Boys to men.
Right? ABC, BBD. Right.
It's the end of the road.
It's a
Yeah.
Motown.
Oh
film.
man, we're gonna start breaking out in song here. But no, I mean, from the point where like, okay, am I being too passive sometimes?
Yeah.
Right. Because we could all three say it was harsh for us. I mean, it was funny. Me and Brooke were at a marriage thing last night talking about different things in a group, and they were talking about, how's conflict resolution in your house? So we went home and asked the kids, we're like, how do you guys see us solve conflict? Because we talked about how our parents did it, Some was a lot of yelling in my house. Brooks was her, walking away, and the situation just dissipated. And we're like, I asked Kyler first thing when I walked in the house, what do you see? He goes, well, you guys are just, you're quiet and you don't, I'm like, but do you hear us having conversations and talking it through? And he's like, not all the time. And I'm like, but that's what we do, right? I never go to sleep on my anger. I've just been that guy my whole life. And I'm like, man, we really want you guys to recognize how we take these attributes into our relationship even. And I'm like, sometimes we're dismissive of even their awareness of what's going on around us all the time. It's like,
oh, they say it all the time. Kids pick up everything.
Right.
Everything.
And it's crazy because, I could have whatever tone I have, and my kids always think I'm yelling regardless. They're like, no, Dad, you're barking. You're yelling. And I'm like, well, I have no clue what you're talking about,
Yeah, I also think that's a natural teenage kid reaction to
Right.
a parent giving them advice, giving them counseling, giving them whatever. It's like, stop yelling at me.
Yeah. Well, we all get the things, my friends are, they're kind of afraid of you sometimes. So I'm like, well, that's a good thing.
Yeah.
In a bad thing in
what
some
we get.
ways.
I planned it to be that way.
We get the, y'all are different. And they've actually used that term before, like, y'all are different. And my answer to that is,
you're getting in my
yes.
wheelhouse now.
That's the point. Like, we want to be set apart. We want to be different, you know.
Apart.
And it doesn't register with them yet because they see their friends, and I find it funny because we have conversations at the baseball games in the stands with all the other parents that we've known for years because the boys have grown up playing ball together. And we have the conversations with the parents, and it's what you hear out of your kid's mouth that is happening in this family. When you actually sit down and talk with the parents, they're like, "Oh, that doesn't happen in this family. What are you talking?"
Yeah,
So it's they make it out to be a little bit worse than it is because we've got some really good families. We're fortunate. The parents that we have of his friends.
Subscribers.
Well,
At Close Cover
I hope.
on Instagram.
Thank you.
But for the most part, they're still married. So mom and dad are still in the household. It's a healthy family environment. From what I can tell, the vast majority of them are believers. We might be a little more strict in what we allow and what we don't allow, but it's kind of funny to hear their angle on, it's just, y'all don't let us do anything and this and that. And then I go talk to them and they're like, no, we don't let our kid do that.
Yeah,
Like, there's no way we would. So it's nice having that community so that you can bounce those things off of the other parents and be like, all right, little turds, running his mouth over here. And that's not what it is. And it's happening
Of course.
back and forth.
Yeah.
So
Kids are great at playing people off of people.
absolutely. For
sure.
Yeah,
I was a master of it at that age.
You manipulate the situation to
yeah,
get it to the place you want it to fit, right?
Dad said, no, he didn't. Yeah, and you said like a couple things that just, you said the phrase, be different. And of course, you guys know young adult ministry. And so praying into 2024, hey, God, what do you want? What do you want for young adults? And all I heard was be different.
Yeah.
And so it's like, okay, sounds easy as 2 words. And the more I've dug and the more I've dug and the more I've dug. And now this concept, and let's call it a concept, call it a lifestyle, whatever, I don't mean be different when we hit 2025. I mean from how I am today to tomorrow. Has my relationship with Jesus grown? that I'm different tomorrow than I was today.
Yeah.
Today, am I different than I was yesterday? And like, it really starts to like boil this thing down where you're looking at all of the things that you do, all of the things that you do, that you say, how you act, how you react.
Yeah.
And it's like, I want to be different.
Right.
And what we've been going through is like, it's that difference that draws people
Oh, yeah.
and
100%.
opens the door for a spoken message when they see you live a certain way. Because a lot of people go and again, like this is what we've been banging in young adults is like there are voices, even ours. We have joined the mob of voices from podcasts to YouTube to influencers to there are voices
Around all the time.
always telling you from good to bad, parents, pastors, teachers, and all of the other things in between. There's always voices telling you this way, that way, yes, no, whatever, right? And so you're inundated with people talking, and y'all remember the old saying, talk is cheap.
Right.
Like, show me.
Right.
Show me who you are. And the Bible even goes, prove by the way that you live that you've repented of your sins and you've turned to God. And it's like there's that proof, there's that substance of this is who I am.
Right.
And I think one of the things that, kind of going back again to what you're saying as far as like our dynamic, and one of the things I've tried, like I don't have a church, Jason. I don't have a work, Jason. I don't have a home, Jason. I don't have a podcast, Jason. I don't have like
same everything.
I am the same person no matter where I'm at. And that means sometimes in church, not as good, maybe because I find things funny or things, you know what I mean? It's like at the end of it, I'm as real as I can be in every area that I can be, and understanding I'm a work in progress, not an excuse for sin and mistake and blatant dumbness, right?
Yeah.
But I am not perfect.
Right.
But I'm striving to deepen a relationship that makes me different than my peers or the status quo or the people I'm around on a daily basis, because that's the draw of why is your life different?
Right. And that's a key. I mean, that's the vulnerability we offer with what we try and learn each day to become different. And I think that's why we see that fruit, even though we question our actions with our families and our kids and stuff like that. It's the admission of we're not perfect.
Right.
We're always one step away from a reprimand in something, because out of the three of us, we could all come up with a bunch of different lines we say in a stupid way many times over. But that's our kids see that too, and they see us submit to authority even in that instance and say, yeah, I was wrong. And that's how you become better.
Yeah.
That's where growth starts. And even the word just teaches us, that thought, man, that's different. But even just drawing them to that in instances, it's like the aha moment. Like we could all talk about when the light bulb actually went off for us in life, but I can almost remember the moment.
Strobe light.
Yeah,
flashes.
But that's the other thing, man. As a male, and we're gonna say this for every female out there, we all have a little bit of ADD in us, right? We're gonna chase squirrels.
Some more than others.
We're gonna chase squirrels, but it's a focus that redirects us. It's a squirrel we could chase, but fortunately, it's not a squirrel. It's the right one.
It's a constant striving, like you said, to be better the next day. And some days they're 2 steps back,
I don't okay, and I'm not being like a nitpicky.
better.
I don't even use the word better.
Yeah.
It's literally different because I don't feel like better is enough.
Yeah.
And I know it's semantics, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. I'm handcrafted in my mother's womb by the
Okay.
creator of the universe
Okay.
with a plan and a purpose. Like, and when he's done with creation, he says it's good. So I don't need to try and be better than good, but I need to be different than what my nature,
Right.
that sinful part.
Yeah. So it is literally it's semantics.
It's semantics, but I mean, like when people say better, it means that you're worse than, or
Lacking something.
not good.
Well, you
know?
are, because I'm striving to be literally better at my prayer life.
Yeah.
I'm striving to be better at my relationship with Jesus. I'm striving to be, because the one that I struggle with is the me at home, the me at work, the me at church, the me at the baseball fields. Like, 46 years old, I would love to say that me is the same across the board, but I'll be honest with you, it's not. The culture that I work in law enforcement is different than the culture that I've established at my house, and it is a constant battle for me to be the better version of me at work than I have been in the past. In some days, I do it. In some days, I don't.
Yeah.
But I know that the next day, I can strive to be better in that culture at work. Like, I deal with a lot of people that, and whenever I say a lot of people, I deal with a lot of people that I work side by side with that see the worst of the worst day in and day out, that see tragedy happen to family. And a lot of them have been like, how can any God let that happen?
Right.
And it's hard. Like, first responders, firefighters, EMS, police officers, their military falls into that too. Like, we see tragedy, and it's like, how can a God let that happen?
Yeah.
Now, that's not my question, right? Because I want to be there to help try and guide that person that's asking that question, and to try and have that conversation with them, and to try and show them where I'm coming from, what it says here. But to me, I don't have a problem with the word better, because I want to be better. I know that where I was and where I am now, I am a better person because I have worked on and built my relationship with Jesus day after day. And is every day a step forward? No.
Right.
Are there some days that are 2 steps back? Absolutely. But my goal is in the end game that I have more steps forward than I do have steps back.
But still, that's a mindset.
It
right?
is. And that's why I
it-
say it literally is semantics on words and how you want to use
Right.
them. But I think all in all, I think we're all in agreement that we strive, whether it's to be different, whether it's to be better, whether it's whatever word you want to choose, I think the end goal is the same.
Yeah.
Because it's easy for me.
I was looking
home.
up there for my thought too.
It's easier for me at home to be that model picture of what a Christian father should be. It's not as easy for me at work to be that model Christian
Right.
as a police officer. At the baseball fields, it's completely different with the other parents for me. Like, home is probably the easiest place for me. Baseball fields with the other family comes in second. Work is hard for me. And I would love to be able to get to the place to where I'm the same at home that I am at work, that I am at the ball fields, and that I am everywhere else that I go. And I'll honestly say probably everywhere else that I go is second. ball fields is third, and then work is probably fourth. That's the area that I struggle. But it's for me, it's a constant work. It's, dealing with, man, I can't believe I just did that. Or, man, I can't believe I just said that. And it's, that was a perfect opportunity for me to have that conversation, and I completely missed it. Why did I miss it? Because I was afraid. I was afraid to have that conversation. I was afraid of what that person was going to think or say if I said what the Holy Spirit was leading me to say in that moment. And that, for me, at this point in my life at 46, is my biggest goal. It is to be in tune and to hear when the Holy Spirit leads me into those conversations, and to take action on those conversations and have them. Whether it leads to me getting laughed at, whether it leads to somebody bawling, crying, and saying, I can't believe you just said that. That's what I've been waiting to hear. How did you know that I was dealing with that? Well, I didn't, but the Holy Spirit told me that I needed to come over to you and talk to you. I didn't know why. I didn't know what for. And then that person crumbles in front of you because you don't realize what they're going through, but you had the exact words that they needed at that moment. I want to be in those situations as often as I can, and the only reason I'm not is because of me.
Right.
It's the fear in me of rejection. It's the fear of being laughed at. It's the fear of what are the other people in the room going to think, and I'm trying to be better at that day in and day out.
That's where we see our kids and our family grow, though, is when they see us step out in faith.
Unfortunately, they're not at work with me.
Right.
And that's the biggest place that I struggle.
I know, but walking into that situation.
Even, and I'm not trying to poke the bear and get stuck in this loop.
Poke it.
Where would you tell your son that it's okay to be a different person?
I wouldn't.
And so, like, when we worry, to me, it's like when we worry about, I see him in this area and it's great, and I see him in this area and it's great, and then I wonder where he's at in this area.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's like that's that replication of, your struggle, so to speak, and it makes it harder to guide especially when you feel like you're already at a deficit.
Right.
Like, because you're going to look at yourself and go, oh, well, I don't, who am I to tell him to some degree, or at least, that's been for me at times when I see my kids do exactly the same thing that I just did or have done, or a way I was living or whatever. And, it comes back, especially when they know my past. Well, you did this and you did that. And it's like, well, yeah. And that's why I'm telling you the complete opposite, because I don't want you to do those things.
But yeah, why they have a history class.
And laying out that I honestly believe that different is different and better is okay.
Okay is okay. Better is better.
And I'll say this is why, right? If you got water, and I don't know what you mix with water. Okay, so if you got milk, right, and you put syrup in it,
okay,
and you make chocolate milk, or I need something that's more even drastic than that.
Chocolate milk is better than regular milk.
Agreed.
It exactly. Okay, so let's go.
Did I prove your point?
No, let's go like water and tea or water and coffee.
Okay.
Right, something that changes the essence. You don't say, "Oh, this water's better."
Coffee is better than water.
It's different.
I love water, actually. So.
But it's different.
It is.
Right?
Yeah.
Fundamentally, the substance is different. It's not like you don't ask for water with coffee in it because it's better.
I don't ask for water.
You understand what I'm saying?
No. Deep thoughts.
Here's where I'm going, because this may be a jacked up analogy anyway. The more we pursue him, the more he dwells inside of us.
Right.
He doesn't make us better, he makes us different.
Yeah.
He makes us different. He changes who we are by the removing of sin, by allowing.
Are we not better with the removal of sin?
We are, but we're different.
I agree.
And it's like, I don't want to build better on something that's jacked up. I want different than something that's
Better,
jacked up.
and I get better as a perception, right?
Well, I mean, and honestly, they're both
is.
kind of perceptions.
Yes, they are. Yeah.
But it's like,
I think we're
if
all
I'm
saying the same
if
thing.
I'm jacked up, I don't want to just be better than jacked up. I want to be different than jacked up. I don't want jacked up to exist.
Okay, I see what you're saying with that.
Yeah.
You know what I
can
mean?
grasp
It's
what
like,
you're
I don't
saying
want to
there.
put
So
icing
you
on
don't
a
wanna
turd
be
and call it
right.
better.
You
I want to
don't-
be different than a turd with icing on it.
I would not taste that.
There is your best analogy, Jason. So I completely get what you're saying is you don't
icing
want to
on the
be a better version of jacked up. You don't want to be jacked up. You want to be different, and that different version is better than jacked up.
Okay, I can agree with that. I'll go with that one.
Okay. And I think all in all, I think we are saying the same thing. You just have a preference in the term different.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, it's build back better, not
that's the
build
way-
back different.
That's the way it's made
man.
sense in my mind, and understand since about November, December, this is where I've been. This is what I've been eating up.
No, yeah.
Day
It's-
in,
yeah, no, I
day
get it.
out. Like, God, I want to be different.
How about make me great again?
Okay. Well, I don't know. Little bit of time left. Here's my question.
How's this apply to our families?
No, this is gonna we're still in family.
Yeah,
We're
darts
still with
at 'em.
kids.
Yeah.
And let's see if we can do this in roughly 8.5 minutes, which I doubt. Raising boys, raising girls,
Yeah. Different, not better. Different.
different. How?
I think that the way that I look at that is I think that the way that God designed boys or men and our brains, and there are books written about this, there's evidence of it in the Bible, we're wired different. So we respond to things differently, and women tend to respond to things emotionally. And man, let's just be
Emotion
honest,
and
guys.
logic.
Sometimes we don't use emotion as much as women do when we're making a decision. So I think that there is that difference there whenever you're dealing with. I mean, me personally, and having a daughter and having a son, like you were saying earlier, my daughter is the one that if you change your face while talking to her, she will melt.
reads it.
I have
She
one
will
of
melt.
those.
Whereas my son, you can change your face, you can raise your voice. Sometimes you got to grab him by the arm, and you've got to, hey, and you got to get his attention. And it's that physical touch that's like, hey, snap to it. We're talking. Look at me.
Yeah, now
You
you're
know.
in love language zone.
Well, and I think it's
Lovely.
with the boys and the
for
girls.
real, they
it's,
respond
It's like
differently.
that, and it's.
But even
I
some of the girls
enjoy-
respond differently in that.
And
too.
you're right, they do too, because there are different levels of it, and I enjoy like that time that I get to spend with my daughter when it is on that emotional level. Like I like being able to step in whenever I see her overreacting. When she wakes up late and she's only got 30 minutes to get ready for school, and she doesn't know what to do with her hair and her clothes aren't this and this and that, and it's like, hey, like. I'm happy to step in that moment and say, let's talk about, you've got 30 minutes. How are you going to use that time? Is sitting on the ground, getting upset about it and thinking about how horrible it is because you're not going to get to have your hair look the way it does. That's not going to fix anything. Let's start getting ready, And then I also enjoy stepping in there with my son sometimes and handling it how we do as men sometimes and trying to guide him down that path of, this is the right way to do it, and this is the futile way of doing it.
Right.
Like,
So you raise your boys and girls differently.
absolutely, 100%.
Okay.
Nah, I can't say that I do. I mean, my boys would say that I do because, you know, when I reprimand ad for instance, they'll sit there and be like, "Oh, you're not as hard on her. You're not." I'm like, well, it is harder to be hard on her because it's just different, you know, based on the way we work through that judgment and stuff like that too. But at the same time, the same set of rules come out. Everything that the expectation comes out.
That baseline is
there
the
is
same.
a baseline, but I don't try and be different. I just sometimes do because of where we're positioned in life and how we grew up, right? But at the same time, that's not the focus. But to that point is they all are completely different. And again, you said your daughter reads your face. If I look like I'm going to get mad, the crocodile tears start coming down. So I have to react differently because my son will just shun me away and like go to his room and like completely ignore and not listen, where she just throws the crocodile tear. And then, yeah, my reaction's going to be different. But that's it. It's just adhering to each difference in them to just make sure you're connecting at that level for them, right?
And I think the baseline, like we were talking earlier, the rules of the house and the rules of the family are the same for Gray as they are for Harper. Now, how we establish and how we reach and how we accomplish those standards are dealt with differently with each one.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, it's
I definitely am different with, like, absolutely different, and not, again, standards are the same. Like, I mean, these are rules. This is how we do. You don't get to come home at midnight and you have to come home at 8:30. You know, nothing like that. And it's not a favoritism, and it's not a this or that. I think about what we are raising, right? So in my boys' case, I'm raising men. I'm raising men that are going to be responsible for their families, that are going to be responsible for their kids, that carry themselves with integrity, with character, with honor, that understand workplace, handshaking and looking people in the eye and those kind of things. It's like I'm raising a man that's going to have a responsibility and a weight when he gets married, when he has kids, all of those things that he has to understand it's his responsibility to bear.
right.
Like biblically, this is your place. And it's not a better than or where it's like this you were born to be this.
Right.
And my daughters, I'm not raising men. I'm raising women. I'm raising wives. I'm raising mothers. And so there's a nurturing and a caring, and what I try and model the best way that I can with my girls is protector. Because this is what I don't want them to find me and their husband, but these are the qualities
Right.
100%.
that I want them to look
How should
for.
I be loved?
Right.
Right.
And I've had a couple young men want to date some of my girls, and it's like at first I was like, yeah, how about no? And you know, like this has been my like, okay, what is acceptable? What is biblical? What is not putting them in a fire? You know, because you have every extreme, every opinion, whatever. And so I've kind of, through a couple young men, developed this speech. And no, it's not what you do to her, I'm going to do to you. It just makes you some kind of weird pervert or something. I don't know. And it's like, it's real, and it boils down to, I need you to understand that God has given me this girl, that this is my daughter. He gave her to me and commanded me to protect her, not just physically, but emotionally, and her reputation. And by you dating her, you're basically saying, can I step in and take care of those responsibilities that God gave me? Man didn't give them to me. God gave me that responsibility. Not in a chauvinistic, keep her down, baby, just do the laundry and dish it. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's not that at all. No. It's a responsibility as a dad, as a man, that my job is to protect her in all of those areas. And so it's like I'm asking, these young men, do you understand what you're asking me? It's not just, can we go to the movies? I really like her. So what? I don't care. This is what I'm worried about. Will you treat this responsibility the same way I treat this responsibility? And if you can't, if there's any question, then no. Absolutely not.
Man, just thinking about that. If somebody gave us that sound advice when we were teenagers and you walked into a home and spoke to the girl you were dating at that time's dad, and he looked at you and said that to you, how much would your perspective had changed at that point?
Absolutely.
I mean, when I was a kid, I would have been like, oh man.
Nah, I just thought she was pretty, man. I'll be honest. And, I mean, for real.
He's a little scary to me, know.
But it's
at that same time.
There's a reality,
right.
And I have this talk with my daughter sitting right there. Like, it's not. I'm not just going to take the dude out there I've had this talk with my girls sitting right there.
I think it's
because there's understanding. Listen, babe. It's not don't date because I hate all these boys and I'm like this old stereotypical dad that, nobody's going to date my daughter. I want you to date and get married and hopefully it's all the same person.
Right.
That's what I want. But there's a standard again. And it's like, do they value the things that are most important? Will they protect the things that are most important?
Right.
Are they going to put you in a compromising situation where your reputation is not protected, where you're not protected physically, where you're not protected emotionally? Are they going to talk in a way that's contrary to the way that I talk to you?
Mm-hmm. And that's true with relationships, but friendship.
Yeah.
Surround yourself with people like-minded, right? You're a testament of the people you surround yourself with. We always hear it, and it's biblical too, but that's the same question. Are they furnishing responsible actions in you, and are they helping lead you to that relationship?
Yeah.
Because here's the thing: we could try our hardest to lead our kids to a relationship with God, but they still have that will and that choice. And the people they surround themselves with, we could only control so much of it, but we hope that also sets in with them and they furnish those relationships together. And actually that talk, man, I'm going to pocket that one.
You can
I was
have
thinking
it.
the exact same thing.
You can have it.
For when Ed is dating, I'm like, and my boys better learn this. And
It's
a
a totally different concept. Yeah. And my boys is the opposite end of the spectrum.
Right.
It's like, son, listen, you want to take this girl out, you want to date this girl, your responsibility is to protect them. Not just physically, don't walk around all bowed up. Physical is the least that you'll have to do. If you're in a place where you have to protect her, you have to fight physically, you probably shouldn't be in that place in the first place. I mean, don't get me wrong, things happen, but it's like her emotions and her reputation, those things don't get valued near as much as the other side. And it's like, I need you to understand, son, that these things matter. And that's what being a good man, a good husband, a good dad when those times come, because
right there
you're putting into them who they're supposed to be here, not, you know what I mean, not just worried about right here on the surface.
You hit it on the head. And we're gonna get our wives in here and talk about marriage at some point and what fosters a good relationship. I mean, yeah, I mean, we all had some kind of physical attraction up front and with our wives and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, a survival of our relationship was created on communication or some form of communication and how you upheld those standards for her, which that's
a topic for another day.
different.
I think
Different daily. So,
I think if you're, tuning in and you've listened to this point, first and foremost, we appreciate it. Like and subscribe and follow us on social media. There's a whole bunch of stuff.
Closed
Just
cover
look at the bottom
podcast
of the thing, and all
on
this stuff
Instagram.
is listed
is it?
down there. I think so. James does an amazing job, and Brooke does an amazing
Come on,
job.
man. We're on
He
Spotify now.
Yeah, he sends
Yes.
us
Spotify.
all this stuff, and he's like metrics, and I'm like, dude, I'm just here to talk.
Yeah, that's
And,
where
I don't know what. Yeah,
dancing monkeys and stuff in my brain are going crazy because
That's why I have Jeff over here.
Yes.
He knows what everything
I
is.
think-
you two.
I think as dads, right, and we get worried about the moment. And that's one of the things I pray for my kids the most is God, give them their moment. Because we can chase all of our stories to a moment. And yeah, once that moment happens, once your real unshakable moment happens,
Yep.
where God becomes God to you, not your daddy's God, not your grandma's God, not your mama's God, but God becomes God to you. Once you have that moment,
Yeah.
then you look and realize I can look back from that moment and see God operate in my dad, see
Right.
God operate in my mom,
Everything.
see God operate in my grandmother, but God operating in them up until my moment was just them and their God.
Right.
You know what I mean? And not like I had a different God. I guess I did, if, it's either one or the other. But it's like, so I pray for that moment. God, give them their moment. God, make yourself real in their life. Not because of what I say. If what I say helps,
Right.
if who I am helps, but God, they need their moment.
Yeah.
They need
It's
God is God to me, and there's nothing that anybody could tell me that would make it different.
yeah. I said the light bulb moment. It's the immaculate conception moment in Luke 1:37. For nothing is impossible with God. When it just shines, and you're just like, huh.
Yep.
But that's also where you become a man. That's one of the points of inflection.
Yeah. They're definitely, you begin to take
Not
responsibility.
saying you're not a man if you don't have that, but there's a moment.
I'm not going to get into defining what a man is and isn't at this point.
Yeah.
Definitely part of the completion.
If
Another
you've
day.
joined us for this one, again, we appreciate it. For myself, for John, for Jeff, James in the back, keeping it all real for us. We appreciate you tuning in. Catch us again. We are really going to try and start cranking out more episodes. We're trying to chop them up a little bit where you don't have to listen as long for you ADD intense people. Trust me, I feel your pain. And you guys that really like the long ones, listen to a bunch of them back to back. We're glad you joined us on Close Cover Podcast, and we'll see you on the next one.